Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to take a look at Damwon versus DRX. We're doing it live on Twitch, but if you miss it, of course it's going to be on YouTube. Let's jump into the draft discussion. That is all. Just going to move the chat for a little bit to not cover any faces. Jin's face is beautiful. Alright, let's take a look at the bans. This is something that is very common in Korea. It's kind of almost ruler forcing this. Ashe blue side ban into force. So basically, AD carries are in a kind of a hierarchy right now, right? So you have Caitlyn at the top, Ashe is right below, and then usually the next one that is in line is Senna, and then last is Kalista. So I think teams that are first picking AD carry are most of the time in the right mindset. Here I thought it was kind of ballistic that, you know, Lucian, Karma, Ashe is out. Lucian is something that Chovy plays a lot. And with the Ashe ban, usually the response is Caitlyn ban, because I think trading Ashe for K is completely fine if you gain something more, for example, like a priority jungle pick. Now I need to make sure that I'm not talking about these in the wrong order. I'm assuming it's from right to left. I'm assuming it's from right to left, but it could also not be. Wait, we just need to make sure, guys. We just really need to make sure. Like it could be both from left. It's right to left, yeah. Okay, it's right to left for both sides, right to left. I just don't want to mess it up. I messed it up in the past couple of times. Okay. So yeah, Pantheon out is a super target ban. TF also, something that Showmaker plays a lot and enjoys. Set mid lane is something that is considered super good, but also a Canyon is probably the best set jungle in the world. So it's also another reason. In Korea, you don't have any, you know, super jungle meta like the Evelyn or the Hecarim. It was kind of weird that Europe had this anomaly. But I'm trying to understand why they banned Hecarim. I guess the reason they banned Hecarim is because they have Volibear and they locked Renekton third. And their thinking process is that Volibear is going to go into it and they're going to pick Hecarim as a counter to Lilia. Horse against horse. Which I don't know if I entirely agree with. But okay, to each their own, right? To each their own. And then the classic counters to Syndra are being removed. Very obvious here that DRX are going to look for last pick mid, right? They already, most of the time teams are going to pick support here, especially when Lux is already showing. There's no reason to screw yourself over by picking mid in fourth. So they are banning the potential counters to Syndra. Usually if Syndra gets banned here, there's Zoe as an option, Syndra as an option, and then of course there's Azir, and then lastly there's Orianna. Or not lastly, but these are the options for blind pick that are available. And usually Akali is the go-to champion after some of the champions that are out, and Akali always lands in a scale matchup. Akali needs to win the war of attrition with the nerfs. With the nerfs that Syndra has received and the buffs that Akali has gained, this matchup has shifted a little bit in Akali's favor, and it's much easier for her to survive because Syndra runs into this wall where she can't pressure a Akali with MR Rune and Fleet Footwork, and also of course TP and a Doran Shield out of the lane. She just doesn't have enough power. She might try depending on Corrupting Potion buy or something like this, but it's tricky. It's tricky. I believe it's easier to play the Akali than the Syndra early lane in this matchup. And then it completely depends on the jungle pick. In this case, we've seen this many times before where Lilia and AP mid laners don't have you know, that much synergy, because obviously Magic Resist counters them, but Chovy almost the entire season has been playing like on his own. There's been games where Pyosik and Chovy have done some good things, like Pyosik on Lee Sin and Chovy on Azir. Those have been very beautiful games, but all in all, it isn't you know, super exciting in terms of 2v2 prowess in comparison to some of the other teams we've been watching the last days. All in all, I like Akali into Volibear too. Volibear is the type of champion that needs to hit, very similar to Olaf. Like this is Olaf with fur and a stun, pretty much. This is Olaf with fur, and he functions the same way. And Akali is happy to play against a jungler like this because, like, Volibear just needs to punch, punch, punch. Why Volley instead of Set here? Because Set is banned. That is probably a very good reason as to why that is the case. Lux is the blind pick, Lux Caitlyn, and then we have, of course, the continuation. They just pick Renekton to mix and match together with, the Lilia. There are no top lane bans here, so Damwon has the option of going absolutely anything, right? They have absolutely the option of going anything. They can go Quinn, and they can go, Jace, Nuguri has a lot of options here, but he goes for Ornn, which a lot of people think of Nuguri as the type of player that is just going to be, balls to the walls aggro, but this is really not the case. I think Damwon is the most well-rounded team we have at the World Championship, with the most amount of clarity in terms of how they want to win games. And we'll see that very clearly in these series. This series is a very, very good depiction of what Damwon are capable of. They are capable of playing many different drafts, and they are very, very quick to analyze what is the win condition. Together, they are also so centered into it, and they are not. The problem with Vi is that her itemization is just trash. She needs so much premium items. And that makes it super, super hard. Well, coming into the World Championship, I think Top Esports is their own worst enemy. They're definitely the favorites to win it all. By premium, you mean rare or legendary items. Yeah, very expensive items. Why did DRX leave Kate open? In Korea, people can play into Kate. But I think after Ashe ban, you should definitely ban Kate. I think it's a bit crazy. Why not Senna here, by the way? Because Caitlyn is in the picture, then Senna is worse. We jump into the game. What we expect from the game is just heavy 2v2 top. But then again, there's an Ornn. So I think you're very happy to have this matchup. This team needs to snowball the Ornn, while Lux and Kate need space to push and pressure. I think 2v2 mid is slightly in favor of Syndra and Volibear, but Volibear most of the time in games like this is going to be so busy going into bottom side that Akali was going to have free space. Mostly around, the 8-minute mark, you already see the conclusion of Akali versus Syndra. And if I remember correctly, in this game, Akali had a very, very good time. But let's relive this story. In terms of drafts, I heavily favor Damwon. I think this is something that DRX always... why no Shen Blue 5? Well, Ornn is just as good. Ornn is just better. There's very little synergy with Shen, and I think Ornn is better into Renekton than what Shen is. There's no pressure at all when you're playing Ornn. Like you have time as your friend when you play Ornn. With Shen, you need to force things, and the champions that Damwon had in mind don't have any synergy at all. Like very, very little synergy. So something that you're going to see very often with Lux lanes is just they press W, and then with Shield Bash they're going to auto you, and then they're gonna get Shield again, and they're gonna auto you again, and it's a very, very oppressive level 1. Shen instead of Renekton, well, Shen, Lilia, I don't know. Renekton is fine, guys. Renekton is fine. I know that a lot of Renekton as a champion has been memed a lot, but Renekton is something that transitions your junglers into a good position. So this is the goal here. Pyoshi looking for an invade. Pyoshi getting the blue, wasting a lot of Volibear's time. Volibear playing Predator. Move the chat. Yeah, sorry. I am gonna move all the things. Moving the chat and moving my face too. There we go. And then I'm gonna shrink the camera to match it to. Forgive me, forgive me. Honestly, every champion in the game benefits a lot from Ornn items. Yeah. We can even make it a bit smaller, and then we can see the whole camera of Damwon. That's pretty neat, I think. Why is Lux in the meta? Because of Caitlyn, no other reason. Just good synergy with Kate, that's all it is. Swaps happen, it's completely dependent on the lane matchups and itemization. For example, if you have a Jason and Akali and the enemy is buying armor or something like this. What was that noise? That was a new noise. What on earth was that noise? Why Lux better than Morg? Lux is a better blind pick. Morg requires to get value from her E, and Lux shield will always give value against anything, right? Condition of Yoshik is quite good. This is the second spawn of his Raptors too. He already has a base. And Volibear finishes full clear very late. Also, Yoshik has opportunities here to invade Gromp. Like, if he has the clarity to do this, I can't recall if he actually did it, but if he manages to do it, it's so impressive actually, the play in this game. And this is something that Renekton gives you. It gives you space for your jungler. People often don't appreciate space for junglers, because if junglers get, you know, completely suffocated in their own space, it's very tricky to play. Like here for Canyon, it's not that enjoyable to play this game. But in all honesty, Canyon should look to fight for the enemy Gromp, because his bottom lane position is very strong here. Jhin is completely out of mana. He's gonna have to recall. Condition of Chovy is decent, because here, even though Showmaker is sitting on a TP advantage, Chovy got the ideal base with the Mercury recall, and even though Showmaker has a TP advantage, Volibear is not strong enough right now to create a situation where he's going to keep this advantage, because Chovy is going to contest heavily now and force Showmaker to TP back, and then all is going to be good. Showmaker might be able to base on Lost Chapter, I believe so, if he sticks around for a little bit longer against this cannon, but Mercury is definitely a win. Like here, this lane state is a win for Akali, and this state of the game is also a win for Pioshik from a jungle standpoint. So Nuguri is going to be in dive range. Problem is Pioshik is kind of low mana, so they're just backing off. They don't have Volibear position. Volibear is starting Drake, which is also kind of sweet. The bottom wave is looking kind of weird, but the base of how Damwon played it, I believe it's bouncing towards them. Clear spots this. Good stuff. Like DRX, what they do well is they play the lane phases quite good with all of their cocktail champions that they're drafting. But afterwards, it kind of loses its edge, because eventually they reach a point where they don't know how to play the comp out. And sometimes they put themselves in holes, very big holes. Okay, we're back in it. Why isn't Ivan in the meta? Well, I think the issue with Ivan is, well, I think it's weird that he doesn't get full credit for golems. I think that's sad. I think also his jungle pathing is quite predictable. Well, not that his jungle pathing is predictable, because we can make it unpredictable, but it's punishable. It's very punishable, and the way he ganks as well in a lot of cases is just too weak to pressure a lot of lanes. you need to have very specific conditions for Ivern to be viable, and usually those are just not met. But I would say that if Ivern is in the game, for example, in this case, if the team has Caitlyn, I think that would be like Juicy McGee. Juicy McGee. Very, very juicy. Pyosik is doing a very good job. He's finding every crab first. Thank you very much, Human Dog. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Pyosik is finding every crab. He's finding the invades. He's using the lane pressure. Like DRX are playing this pretty sharp. Very, very sharp. Like there's a 2-level advantage here for Pyosik. And Cannon is just holding his own. Like on paper, this looks like a very, very winnable game. It's just weird that DRX, you know, in terms of draft, they always keep just shooting themselves in the foot. Because what was the purpose? Story. Why do you think TL and C9 struggle so much in playoffs? I think TL and C9, they tried to innovate a bit too much. What do you think of Pyosik overall? LS said he's not LCK level. Well, what is LCK level? Like, what does that even mean? Like, I think in general, LCK junglers have not been that super impressive. I think Canyon has been super impressive all split long, but everyone else has been kind of flippy. When I say flippy, I mean like really like Klid and Pyosik, really coin flippy performances. This game is a beautiful, you know, performance. Onflick is good. Onflick is really good. Onflick just has an issue. He just likes ping quads a bit too much sometimes, and sometimes Onflick has this issue where he thinks, oh, my bot lane is struggling, my top lane is struggling, I need to save them. But that's not how jungling works. You play to your strengths. Like here, for example, Pyosik. Here, for example, Pyosik is not helping his bot, even though they are taking it up the ass. You just play to your strengths, right? Nuguri no flash. Volibear position is into bottom side. You want to snowball. You want to use the Herald, right? Well, I don't think Pyosik is good enough to win a world championship, but Pyosik is a strong jungler. Like it depends on the context, and I don't like that people take what Ella says or even what I say out of context. Clean your face cam. Is that better? What about Kasa? I think Kasa should be in the conversation with best jungler in the world. Oh no. Nuguri actually might have had a solo kill here if it wasn't for this Q that was casually on the ground. Look at that. Wow. Yeah, but keep in mind, guys, comparing junglers to Tarzan is really, it's not fair. Like, Tarzan is fantastic. Tarzan is really good. Keep in mind here, if Nuguri lands the E here, he also gets the brittle, right? The brittle punch. And then the grass pit. And then, of course, you have the Ornn poof. The Ornn poof. Like, I don't mind people parroting what Ellis says, but if they parrot it and just completely misconstrue it, I think that's worse. I think that's way worse. So that dive was not viable. I think maybe if they played it a bit more slow and they started with Renekton, I think it could have been better. Like here, if you can't dive, it's pretty trash. But I'm trying to think if they actually can dive. Can they dive? That's the question. Can they? Because Doran just needs to tank first. Like, why are they... Like, what is this? What on earth is this? It also doesn't help that, look at Doran, he Qs. That's the fuck up, no? Cause look, the Doran just fucks it up, he Qs. He has no rage, he just Qs. Then what the fuck is this? Yeah, of course, if you can't dive Ornn, then you shouldn't be here. You should just clear your bot side and then into top side and then just delay it and let Renekton trade a little bit. You also have a lot of fucking gold. Like, you're sitting on AP jungle item. I think if AP jungle item Pyosik is ready, I think this is a very free dive if Doran plays it good. But yeah, I think in terms of player levels, if we think of DRX in the light of winning a world championship, I think from what I've seen, Pyosik and Doran are not good enough to win a world championship. Like if DRX had Khan and Kanavi, or Khan and Tarzan, I think individually they would be powerful enough to win a world championship, for sure. But I think also a big issue for DRX is just the inconsistency in their drafts. I think Syndra going Doran's ring, I think maybe you have to go corrupting. Well, it's like just the moment Chovy got Mercury base, it was just a huge win. It was just a huge win. Like the moment Chovy got Mercury base, he won the lane. Like, I'm not even kidding. He won the lane when he had the Mercury base. And after the nerfs of Syndra, this matchup has gotten worse for Syndra. But all in all, like, Chovy won. Chovy just won the lane the moment he got Mercury base. He was even, and Syndra needs to get some kind of advantage early. And it's so hard to do now after all the Syndra nerfs. It's really, really hard to do. Especially if you're playing against a player like Chovy. Still a rift on Pyosik. There's a 2-level gap here. Like DRX are in a good position to win this game. The only tricky part is they lost the dragon, but they have no way of contesting that Drake. Like Caitlyn Lux is just too strong. Problem is, the moment Ornn reaches a point where he builds items, this game is just over. It's just going to give them too much value, and it's easy to itemize against DRX. Like there's a Banshee on Syndra, she's never gonna die again, and Renekton will not be able to team fight. Like it's just a composition that doesn't scale too well, DRX. Like here they're in a winning position, but not winning enough. You know, they're not winning enough. Just because they don't have dragons, they don't have anything that will put this game in a state where the game will break before Ornn is going to build items. It's just, unless Damwon completely troll, it's just not gonna happen. Ghost is also in super good condition, he's super far ahead. Like the CS doesn't do it justice because the man has 3 platings as well. It's pretty goddamn nuts. I think also Damwon, like DRX, are beginning to realize that they are in trouble. Deft burning flash. I already gave my thoughts on on this question, Questcape. Please stop spamming it. Yeah, winning position is the wrong way to put it. It's like, on paper, they're doing well, but it's not well enough. This is what I'm trying to explain. Like Pyosik won his little minigame, but Caitlyn is just, DRX draft is just terrible. It's just, you give up Caitlyn and your bot lane is Jhin Pyke. It's just Jhin Pyke. It's just your bot lane is Jhin Pyke against Caitlyn Lux. Like the level of quality difference is just too high. And I think Pyosik DRX are... Yeah, I don't believe they are good enough to win Worlds. Pyosik did well this game. We shouldn't discredit that. Pyosik did well this game. DRX bot lane draft is impossible to play. And that one delivered. Like, they got 4 platings. Like, the bot tower is just completely gone. I think the way Pyosik and Ornn played the 2v2 top was really strange when they looked for the dive. Like, they are good on the timer, on invading, but they couldn't really set up the dive and punish the fact that Nuguri had no flash. And I think this comes down to Ornn's wave management, because if you can't dive, you need to freeze. Because Pyosik was spending all of his time into top side, and I think this is something that Ornn could have managed a lot better. Like, you should be able to set up a dive onto Ornn. The thing is, him going bot is going to be the losing play. Like, you don't want to save... You can't save Jhin and Pyke. You can't save Jhin and Pyke. It's too hard. Unless you do something cheesy, like a level 3 gank and burn the summoners or something like this, but it's... Theoretically, it's too hard to save. Because 3v3, they should have no chance. Like, Volibear Lux Kate is going to hard win. Like, the Q of Volibear lands on one target, Lux follows up, and then a trap, like, that target dies. That 3v3 is too strong, and they're going to be able to control the wave however they want. So I think Pyosik did well, but the top dive never happened because Ornn didn't manage his wave enough. Like, Ornn dives should always be possible to set up in this case, because Renekton completely controls the wave. But it might require additional steps, because you can freeze the wave and then Ornn maybe has to overextend, you build an advantage and then you go. Let's keep focused on the game, guys. Too many off-topic questions. Is Genji better than DRX? I think DRX just don't have their shit together in terms of... Like, I feel bad for Deft. Like, if he has... Like, he had a rough split and he has back problems. And that's fucking tough, man. Because Deft is a great fucking player, you know? Deft is a world-class player. And, but their drafts are so difficult to play after a certain point in time. I feel like a lot of the time DRX don't have that much foresight about what is going to happen 15 minutes into the game or how they're actually going to win the game. So a lot of focus on the lane phase, and I think that's not so viable. I think this showed throughout the entire series. Like, Chovy is a fantastic laner, right? Look at the condition he's in right now. If you look at the situation he's in right now, like, he's 15 CS up as Syndra, as an Akali. That's fucking amazing. That is really, really good. Chovy was really good. Chovy literally 1v9'd some of those games against Genji. Chovy is an amazing player. Like, if someone told me Chovy is the best mid laner in the world, I would be like, yeah, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. Completely reasonable. There's a lot of reasonable takes right now that you can make about who's the best mid. But I think also you should, like, if you're DRX, you just don't draft in a way where you give topside that much agency. Yeah, like, of course, draft is such an easy thing to point to, but with DRX, it's so fucking true. Like, with DRX, it's so fucking true. Because, like, the Pyosik invades onto blue were fucking clean. They were clean. But they are sitting with Jhin Pyke against Caitlyn Lux. How is that playable? It's not playable. It really isn't playable. Like, enemy bans Ashe and you give Kate. Like, that's dangerous. Just give the enemy TF. Just don't ban TF. And you're alright. Don't need to ban TF. What are you afraid of? Pick Silas. You're gonna be an absolute monster. I don't mind Renekton Lilia, but that's also me watching LPL mostly for the last 2 days. Like, I've only been watching LPL for the last 2 days. So my opinion of Renekton and Lilia is Chinese, okay? If I look at it in DRX's light, I wouldn't want to give it for DRX. Like, Doran should be on Ornn duty, you know? It's just so arrogant to give up Kate, I think. Very arrogant to give up Kate. With Ashban, you give up Kate? That is wild, I think. Very, very wild. Who is better, Chovy or Caps? I think individually, Chovy. But Caps is a smarter player in terms of how he impacts the map. Now the game has reached such a state which, you know, we was mentioning the Drakes. Like, Damwon have 12 minutes of freedom. And that is if we are being very, very, you know, generous. 12 minutes of freedom where it's going to be tricky to pressure anything. Because the distance control that Damwon's composition has requires them to take very little risks in terms of approaching any wave. Like, they have Caitlyn, they have Lux, they have Syndra. It's very easy for them to, you know, set up in a very, very neat way. Breaking mid tower is also huge. But now, already, the game is over. As silly as it might sound, the game is over for DRX. Now, like, whenever an analyst says the game is over, at least me, I can speak for myself. When I say the game is over, it's on paper. If both teams play good, the game should be over. Nuguri has already reached 13 at 20 minutes. Like, he's in super good condition. DRX played into top side, but there was no punishment at all. Ornn is not behind. He's in a very, very good state. And Caitlyn is super happy. She got all platings. She got first tower. She's super, super strong. Everything is pointing in Damwon's favor. Now Ornn is going to reach 14, and then all of a sudden, boom, crit item on IE upgrade, and then boom. Ornn is a very, very good pick into Jhin. Like, Jhin has a hard time killing tanks. You are right. Super Craig. Not dying to ganks is valuable in anything. And there we have the itemization that the Banshee is going to land on Syndra, and then she's unkillable for the rest of the game. It's just magic resistance is going to be a very, very painful thing for the DRX. Also, something to consider here is you have 2 Liandry purchases. Sure, in this case it's fine, right? Most of the time they're going to hit different targets and so forth. But Liandry's debuff actually doesn't scale. I mean, not scale, it doesn't stack. So basically, if two people have Liandry's and they're hitting the same target, there's only one Liandry's debuff. The same way, like a Frozen Heart debuff, you can only have one instance of a debuff. So here, even Damwon don't need to fight this. But the position is very strong, and they know the position of Akali. Like here, Damwon don't even necessarily have to fight this. But if we look at how Damwon prepared for this, it is a beautiful mid-wave. They are positioned in the same area. They know Akali's position. This is beautiful. Very, very beautiful. This is the story of this series. Damwon preparing very well, having the right pink wards placed, and Grievous Wounds does not stack. Yeah, Lilia and Akali nearly hit. That's what I said, right? They don't hit the same targets. I'm just saying it's an interesting note for you guys to have, you know? I don't do song requests right now, so that's a waste of 5,000 points. I'm sorry. You can remind me later. Grievous Wounds does not stack. It's the same debuff. There are some grievous wounds that are more powerful than others. You can double ignite someone. No, you can't. Well, ignite and grievous wounds are two different things. But ignite, like if you ignite, you can override the ignite effect. So for example here, Death Lotus, Bear on a Trap. These do 60% healing reduction. These are a bit more powerful. And then ignite 40% and everything else is 40%, right? Thank you very much, Super Craig. Well, the thing is, as funny as it is, Morello and Leandri has good synergy. Ignite and Qatar, so it doesn't stack. It doesn't stack. We've been saying it many times. It doesn't stack. Grievous wounds effects don't stack. Like, sure, Ignite and Qatar is dangerous because it has a lot of damage. Have you ever eaten cannoli? So here we go again with the off topic. Let's get into this fight. Let's get into this fight. So Ornn is so good into Jhin because the moment he just starts aiming, you can just Ornn ult. I don't know what Doran is doing. Honestly, like, how do you really maneuver yourself in this fight? Like, I don't know why Doran is here. Like, the best way they can play is possibly Doran to look to come from here, then Akali come from here, but there's no reason for him to go and hit the Ornn. Like, the biggest hope for Daman is for DRX if these two big boys, chunky boys, commit into the Jhin, and then everyone can kind of pass and enter the back line, and then maybe they can, you know, hit hard. I'm pretty sure the damage of Ignite doesn't stack. I think you remove the effect. You just override the effect. I'm pretty sure Ignite doesn't stack. Like, you can't be level 1, let's say, let's go 5 Ignites, and then we all Ignite the same person, and he's gonna die. It just starts a new Ignite. It just refreshes. And now with Doran's playing this fight, it's completely over. Chovy's trying to do something, but it's just not enough. Like here, he lands the E on Kate, but then, as you can see, the E comeback gets cancelled by Showmaker, and then Chovy is just fucking dead. Pop Gonzo. Korea gets some catch on volleyball, and now the game is completely in the grave. He doesn't like sour cream and Pringles? What do you mean? I like sour cream Pringles. Look at this. I have a can right here. Does Manamune's passive apply on the healing parts of Senna's Q? No. It's only on damage. Yeah, this game is over. I think we can... Any questions about the game? About the game in front of us, guys. Nothing else. About the game. Questions about the game. Lilia is one deer fool. Why Pike? I don't know, buddy. I really don't know. Korea. I was watching a lot of Korea stream, and he was playing a lot of Pike with the Pike buffs, whatever you want to call it. And maybe they just wanted to bust it out here. Was Jhin and Pike the plan against Kate and Lux? I doubt it, because I feel like DRX kind of just freestyle it. Why Kate doesn't build Stormrazor? Well, IE is a better item. You build Stormrazor when the game forces you to do so. Thoughts on Redemption Volley this game? I think a lot of junglers are useful early, and then afterwards they are just a pack mule for important items. Why Lux and not Morgana? Well, Morgana has a lot of natural counters. Morgana is very easy to counter. Her E spell is very conditional. Her W spell is very conditional. Her ultimate is very conditional. Lux lane phase is not so conditional. Her shield is always relevant. Her Q is also always relevant with the likes of Caitlyn. That's why we only see Lux and Caitlyn together, because they synergize well together. Lux is like a Morgana without the potential weaknesses of Morgana. But also the downside is that you don't have the strengths of a Morgana as well, like blocking key CC spells with the Black Shield. So it's a trade-off, right? Morgana is a counter pick, Lux is a blind pick. That's the key difference. Because in this case, what will Morgana do in this game? Morgana is completely garbage. Like, it's not garbage. Morgana ult shows Akali and so forth, but Lux is just better. Lux is just better. Yeah, Lux's shield is really good versus Lilia. Yeah. How Akali weren't able to blow up Ghost of Showmaker? Well, at this point, Akali is not so strong. She only has one core, and there's already a Hex Drinker on Kate. And then there's also a Banshee. Akali is completely out of the game. It was too easy, we mentioned it at the beginning of the game, the dumb one, the moment they get Banshee or Hex Drinker, any type of MR, this game is going to be GG'd. What would you have done to save draft after they gave Kate? I would probably go for a Senna. If this is the direction you want to go in. You just lock in Lilia, Renekton 1-2, and then you go Senna. But then again, if you DRX, this is not the draft that you want to go for. I'm just talking in, a grand scheme of things. I think Jhin is just too difficult. You said that DRX had a strong laning phase between Chovy and Pyosik individually. Where do you think DRX should have funneled their strength into? Well, ideally in this draft, they needed to snowball the Ornn and snowball the Renekton harder. But they just didn't. Why do you think Renekton is a great pair with Lilia? Because Lilia wants to play in a way where she invades, and she's kind of like a AP Graves almost, the way she wants to maneuver around the map. She wants to level 1 invade, she wants to keep a constant traction between her and the jungler, especially if it's a Volibear. So this was a game where Pyosik was very active. But why is this game over? That's a good question. This game is over because right now the interaction between Damon's champions and DRX's champions is just too easy to forego. So the gold, sure, you purchase items, but it's not going to change the fabric of your being. In this case, it's going to be tricky to play Renekton in team fights because Syndra is a spell that counters. Ornn is going to W, Bellows Breath, and W Punch, and that is going to be very easy to deal with. Doran is not going to have any access to any key targets. Jhin, the same thing. Jhin is going to be completely denied by the Ornn ult. The moment Jhin tries to support anything, is going to be super tricky. At the same time, for Pyke is going to run into a lot of problems because the front line is right there. It's going to be difficult for them to get anything done. Finally, the two strong players on DRX is, of course, Akali and Lilia. But the itemization has been so easy because of the weakness of everything else that the Hex Drinker on Kate, and then, of course, the Banshee on Syndra makes them completely unkillable here. And with that being said, even Akali is completely confused about what he needs to itemize. He has a bit of everything, and he's going for Zhonya, but he just needs too many items to be useful. Like here, maybe if Akali has a Death Cap and a Void Stab and a Liandry and a Zhonya, maybe he could carry, but that's just way too far off. That's way too far off, right? This composition needs to be absurdly ahead to win. I don't know if GP was banned, but in my opinion, Gangplank top would smash the enemy. He's got Pry over Ornn. Yes, well, Ornn was picked into Renekton. Thoughts on Ghost? Ghost is a player with a lot of fucking clarity about how he needs to play the game, and I think that's super impressive. Very smart AD carry. Very smart AD carry. Pyosik was into topside the whole game and Ornn came out, you know, unharmed. Couldn't more get value against Renekton stun, Lily asleep, Jhin snare and Pike hook? No. Something that people make often as a mistake is they just keep saying, oh, they should have picked this. But keep in mind when Morgana was picked, they saw Jhin and then they saw a Lilia, right? But even then, like, Morgana is not considered a counter to Renekton. Yes. What happened to Nuclear from Damwon last year? Kaiser got nerfed. No, but Chovy really doing his best. Like, what on earth is Doran doing here? Like, why is he punching this pink? Like, he's just punching this pink. He's punching this pink when in reality he should be here already. Which lane has prio on DRX side? Well, top. You don't pick Predator to go in. You don't pick Predator to go in, you pick Predator to be more impactful early, and Predator is to reach targets. I think people are being a bit too harsh on Doran and Pyosik. A bit too harsh. Isn't reaching targets equals going in? Well, targets can be in your team, right? Like in this case, Syndra and Caitlyn Lux win the range check. And with the range check being won by them, it means that the enemy has the obligation to engage first. Then the enemy is going in, right? And then you can reach targets. Predator is just a natural choice that people have adapted coming into Lilia. What super would be good against Kate Lux? With Jhin it's hard, because you kind of need to gank this lane in order to succeed. But when you have Lilia jungle, it's going to be difficult to set up. Like Blitz is not bad. Pike is also not terrible. But when you have Lilia, it's terrible. Lilia can't set up any type of gank pressure at all into the lane of Lux Kate. It just can't happen. And they can just siege the turret and not give a shit. I like how Damon don't feel like stressed to ever do anything, you know? Chovy just got snapped. Chovy rolling in here. Chovy always finds a great position, but here he kind of went too early. But it's just so hard to execute fights. Like it's so difficult for me to complain about what DRX is doing because like they need to do some stupid risks and hope it works. So there's draft issue on DRX side. I think a pretty heavy one, yeah. They're behind on the curve. Man, this comp has no curve. This is a flat composition. Very nice trap placement by Ghost. They knew about Pyoshik Flash. That's fucking neat as well. I think this is something that they struggle with in general. Like it's almost like DRX are trying to be too creative with their draft. They are like they want to be. I feel like DRX want to be the team that is like the most flexible, but it's gone too deep. You know, the science has gone too far. You get me? Do you think Damwon has a chance to win Worlds? I think Damwon is the most precise team we have at the World Championship. But their activity levels don't match the likes of top esports. And I think they could struggle against the top esports. Thing is, when I say precise, I mean that Damwon rarely take decisions that are terrible. Like if you take a look at Top East versus JDG, there are moments where both sides of those teams kind of make int plays. If you look at Fnatic versus G2, there's situations where both teams int. If you look at TSM versus FlyQuest, there's situations where both int. But it's hard to point that to Damwon because they have very good clarity on what they need to do. Very good clarity on what they need to do, and they rally around it very well. Very well. Like insanely well. Because look, Damwon is just deathballing the whole game, right? They're deathballing. You don't have a Volibear pressing Predator and like running into the enemy team. It's not happening. They're deathballing, they're taking it easy. They are contesting the space beautifully. The way they are team fighting is very nice. Deft is finally flanking. This was a decent fight. It was a decent fight. You know, they got some hooks and they landed, and Deft managed to get a flank and one-shot the Showmaker. So these are the depths that the DRX need to go through in order to win a fight, and it's just too unrealistic. You know, it's too unrealistic. Because yeah, they did some good things. They did some good things. Like this was a decent fight, right? It was a decent fight. You can't complain about this. Probably now there's no jungler alive, and these bros just have too many defensive stats. And you see Akali, like look at how much Jin shot is. Look at that, Jin shot them. He was fucking putting so many bullets into the enemy. Fun fact, did you know that you lose 5 AP when you build Athene's Unholy Grail? Really? Don't you get mana regen from the item? Yeah, you don't. How's that a fun fact? It's not true. You get... Bro. There's 100% base mana regeneration. So you get 20 AP from Dissonance. What are you smoking, my man? Fiendish Codex is 35 AP, yes. And Athene's gives 50. No, Athene's is 50. Athene's gives 50 AP. 100% divided by 4. Right? Times 5. 20. What do you think is better individually between Chovy and Showmaker? I think Chovy. Could be. Why top lane superstar season is often only 1 year, while ADCs like Deft, Reckless, or Mid, like Caps Faker, has more than 2 or 3 seasons of being superstar, game-changing presence. Well, I think Zoom has been around for quite some time. Khan has been around for quite some time. The Shy, like regardless of what you want to think about the Shy, the man has played super well the last 3 seasons. Wunder, there's some top laners there. Is Karma better than Pyke into Lux support? I think Karma was banned this game. Which non-Chinese team has the best chance of winning Worlds in your opinion? I think Damwon. But the only reason I say so is because I worry for G2 about how much this bootcamp is going to benefit them. I think G2 definitely, like when they planned out this year, there's no way they prepared for what was coming in terms of like the bubble and all this jazz. I feel kind of bad for them because they knew at the end of summer that they're going to have a lot of catching up to do. And I was also a bit worried that they didn't begin to like ramp up earlier in the summer split, because I made a big conversation, I made a big video about how, you know, getting landing on the Grand Slam is going to be very difficult, like winning every tournament. But G2 have a lot of things that they needed to hash out and to you know, really put their efforts into the game coming into the bootcamp for the World Championship, because the plan is to win Worlds, right? And they realized last year that coming into the finals they was so fucking tired, you know? Do you think DMG worst fear as G2? No, I think Top Esports is everyone's worst fear. Top Esports is IG on crack. Top Esports is IG with a good jungler. Aren't all teams playing under the same conditions? Well, you know, Korea flies 2 hours to China and don't have any jet lag. You think we're making excuses? China, probably just a bus ride, you know? That matters. The food options are very limited when you're in a bubble. And I'm sure that all the Asian teams are way more accustomed to the cuisine. It's definitely not the same conditions. Also, I think Western teams will struggle more with practice when they're not in the same room. I think that's a tricky thing to deal with too. Like reviewing when you're not in the same room together can get, you know, pretty nasty sometimes. Yeah, Damwon are playing a very clean game. Like in this game, there's no rush, right? But their draft allows them to play in such a way. And Akarsa, I think, better than Jankos right now. Akarsa over self-made Jankos, yeah. I think Jankos is better than self-made though. Like, I think. No Zoom call. People are just using Discord, man. Like, we are not. Self-made is mechanically very good, but jungle is a role that really requires synergy with your teammates, and I think Fnatic is coming in at an all-time low. Self-made is Kanavi of EU? No, really not. That's an insult to JDG. Like Fnatic just lack team play, and Self-made managed to make the most out of that situation, which is impressive in itself. If Fnatic gets rid of Self-made and get better jungle, they could win LC. No. Self-made is fantastic. He managed to gain so much in a team that really doesn't seem to work together. That is impressive in itself. It's tough to jungle in a team that doesn't play as a team. Which non-G2 EU team will make it the farthest? I think Rogue. How can you fucking blame Selfmade for... Like, Selfmade legit carried the first best of 5 against G2 that they won. He shouldered that really hard. I don't understand why coach came. Like, imagine, what I don't understand is why you felt like this was the place to like voice that opinion. We're reviewing DRX versus Damwon, and do you think Nuguri is better than Zoom and 369? I think he's better than 369, but not better than Zoom. I think Zoom is the best top laner in the world right now. Like, best top laner at Worlds. I think Rogue has very good chances to do well because they have the strength in the right players. They have strength. Wait, he has a Brazilian mousepad? Look at this mousepad. That's sick. This is supporting Brazil. Brasilia! Do you think Larsen is the most improved player in the LEC? Yeah. It's not something I thought about a lot, but yeah, sure.